This conference will now be recorded.
And as hopefully you just heard, we are recording this presentation, and we plan to post it to our RTP website in the very near future, so that you can come back and take a look at it and review what we put together. If you have a question, there should be a raise your hand button on the screen that you can use, or you could post a question in the chat room if you'd like to do that, or just wave your hand in front of the camera, and hopefully we'll see you and we'll call on you. We will be holding other RTP workshop meetings throughout the year. We have a target endorsement date for the RTP of mid-June. So between now and then, we have a few more meetings where we can get feedback and public comment. And the last thing I have to say before we start is if you are asking a question or speaking up, please identify yourself so that we can make sure we know where you're from. And with that, I will introduce the rest of our staff. My name is Brad Harris. I'm the Transportation Project Director here at the Planning Commission. And then we have...
I'm George Snow, staff with the MRPC. I'm a transportation planner. I've been here for 25 years.
And Sherry Bean, also with MRPC.
And Brian Doherty from MRPC as well.
Okay, we'll be the ones presenting all this information today, and you'll have our email addresses at the end, so if you have any questions, you can contact us whenever you wish. First slide, please, Brian. About the MRPC. The MRPC is a planning area that is comprised of 3 cities, Fitchburg, Gardner, and Leominster, and 19 towns and Devons. We're located obviously in North and Worcester County. Current population, according to the 2020 census, is 242,671, and we cover about 685 square miles. The MRPC is a regional agency that was created by and is responsible to its member communities. It was created through state law and federal law. So we are not a state or federal agency per se. Currently, we have 11 full-time staff members in a planning and development department, geographic information systems, and transportation and transit planning. This next slide is just a map of the MRPC region. I'm sure you're all very familiar with it. Next slide, please. All right, regarding transportation planning, who is involved? Well, obviously we have us, the Montezuma Regional Planning Commission. We have the Montezuma Joint Transportation Committee. This is a subcommittee of the MRPC. It's an advisory committee dealing strictly with transportation and transit issues, and it provides feedback to the full commission as well as the Montezuma Metropolitan Planning Organization, or MPO. The MPO is basically responsible for the formatting and development of an endorsement of various federally required documents and actions. The ones you might be most familiar with include the Transportation Improvement Program, or TIP, the Unified Planning Work Program, UPWP, or this Regional Transportation Plan. The MPO covers the same area as the MRPC, and the MRPC acts as staff to the MPO. We have a transportation planning contract that allows us to work that's fed into the MPO on those various documents. And you can see the MPO makeup is made up of 10 signatories. The Secretary of Mass DOT, the Administrator of Highway for Mass DOT, the Chairman of the Planning Commission, the Chairman of the Montezuma Regional Transit Authority, the Mayors of Fitchburg, Gardner, and Leominster, and then 4 representatives from what we call subregions, made up of our rural communities. And you can see we have 4 subregions that are divided up when this was put together around the approximate same size of population. So they're within a few 2,000 to 5,000 of each other in terms of population size. That's why the various differences. But and there is a 1 representative who is from the Board of Selectmen from one of the communities. They are the sitting representative on the MPO, and we have a representative and an alternate for each subregion. Next, please. In terms of the Regional Transportation Plan, what does it do and what does it not do? Well, it provides guidance to local and state officials on deciding how to spend federal and state transportation funds. What it is not, though, is a wish list where we throw in everything that people want to see happen. It needs to be reasonable. It needs to be feasible. And the main constraint of the RTP is that it is fiscally constrained. The RTP covers a 20 to 25 year planning period, and we try to identify projects and issues that need to be addressed throughout the life of the plan. And as I said, it outlines transportation priority needs for the region. And this one's probably the most important part of it. If a community wants to receive federal funds for a project, it must fit into the policy goals of the regional transportation plan. So if a community has an idea for a new commuter rail line to their community, it needs to meet some of the requirements and be accounted for within the plan. Even if it's a 20-year away project, we have to incorporate something into the plan that accounts for it, or else the federal government, first question they're going to ask is is this within the regional transportation plan? And next, please. Nope, wrong way. What the plan covers. Here you can see all the various elements of the transportation plan. It covers all modes of transportation. There's also an air quality requirement and a fiscal constraint requirement that has to be analyzed, put together. The current RTP, which was developed in 2019 and is labeled the 2020 Regional Transportation Plan, is currently online on our website. Brian, if you could give me control for just a minute. This is our website, mrpc.org. If you come to our opening page, right on the left-hand side, you'll see a banner that says 2020 Regional Transportation Plan, Working Towards the Future. If you click on that banner, it's going to take you to this site here. And these are the various chapters of the RTP, so you can download each chapter individually. There is also what we call a map journal on the site, which covers basically all the written document in an online version. You can see the you can jump to various sections such as the regional profile and read about it here. You'll meet other things related to population and so forth. So it's more of a storybook journal for people to see about the RTP. You can also jump around through this thing on the left-hand side. So when we do set up the new website for this RTP, there will be a similar banner right here on the front page of the MRPC website. With that, I will go back to the presentation. Okay, and so what we're doing here is basically public outreach and feedback is very important to the plan. It's obviously required by the federal and state agencies. What we're asking is that people take a look and provide us with feedback on the various aspects of the RTP as they're developed. Things will be posted to that website, as we said, as they're developed. We also have developed a online survey, and it's available also in a printed and paper format that you can get through this barcode here. It's also, again, on our website on the front page. We ask that you take some time, fill out the online survey for us, and that you pass it along to anyone you think might have an interest in transportation planning or letting their opinions known on the transportation network. As I said, paper copies are also available. They can be downloaded from our website. We also are asking if you know of a place that you think needs or could house a Dropbox for us, and also copies of the survey, to please get in touch with us. We are more than willing to come out and drop those at that location. We're talking to senior centers and public libraries, but if there are other places you think might be of interest where we might get a strong turnout, please let us know. We're more than happy to put something together and see what we can do. With that, we're now going to go on to the following slides, which cover various questions that basically what we want to do is asking you these questions and want to hear from you and just have a discussion on some of these topics. as we go forward. And I'm going to now turn it over to Brian Doherty, who's going to cover these questions. Brian?
Thanks, Brad. Yeah, we basically we have the survey as Brad mentioned, but for these sessions, we're hoping to have feedback via just basically discussion. So we have a number of questions that will hopefully spark some comments and questions and discussion. The first one is just what are the main transportation related challenges in your community? What is important? What are the main issues that you see that need to be addressed?
And Brian, maybe if you go to the next slide, which gives them an example of some of the issues that we're talking about, which has those multiple choice answers.
This next slide was actually derived from a question on the survey. These are some of the things that we have examples of. And if you need to scroll in, if you're having trouble seeing everything on this slide, you can just, I believe, just use the scroll on your mouse to zoom in. We ask in the survey to rate the importance of a number of different issues, transportation related. We list road maintenance and infrastructure, transit, congestion, bike and pedestrian type of issues, roadway safety, economic development, residential development, climate change issues, demographic issues relating to transportation, or sort of town center type of improvements or issues. These are just some of the possible things. And again, just in an attempt to spark some discussion, what are the issues that your community sees, and what do you feel are most important to put to the forefront of what we look at in the plan?
And what will happen too as we get this information in is it'll help us develop our planning strategies for the region. In the 2020 plan, we had several strategies based upon the feedback we received, and it helps us determine how should the federal funds in the region be spent. What should they be concentrating on? For example, last time in the plan, I think safety was up there among the top three. So the question was, how do we make that emphasis in our planning scenarios? And we would try and concentrate more funding towards safety issues and safety projects throughout the region. So that is what we're trying to see from the individuals is what do you see in your community that you feel is most important for you to advocate for and to get funding for? Is it the safety of the roads? Is it the congestion on the roads? Is it actually the maintenance of the roads? Because that is an issue with a lot of communities, especially on the local streets. Unfortunately, not eligible for federal funds, but they have a overriding concern on just the maintenance of the roads and making them travelable for individuals. So if there's anything you have or any ideas you have, please let us know. Okay, why don't we go on to the next one, Brian?
This one, so since we've done the last plan in 2019, we wrote the 2020 plan in 2019, so it's before the pandemic. So obviously a lot has changed in the last 4 years. And we all sort of have examples of that. So how has the pandemic affected your travel patterns, whether it be commute or, possibly, have you taken a flight since the pandemic, or has it affected your everyday patterns? Could be anything. Is there any examples that anyone might have?
I know for a lot of people, telecommuting has gained in prominence, and a lot of people are able to work from home. So that has changed dynamics on their commuting patterns. And is that going to continue? Is it something that people want more of, or is it going to go back to business as usual, back into the office? Some agencies and some groups and some employment centers obviously need staff in the office, and they can't afford to do, work from home on a regular basis. So they have to change the, what they have available right now. So we're asking has the pandemic generated new changes to communities and to your travel patterns and the commuting patterns through your town? Have you seen changes occur because of it? Have they come back to normal levels, or do you think they're still going to stay impacted?
Does anyone telecommute now, and they haven't before the pandemic? Well, just as I mentioned, the last plan was done before the pandemic. So this is going to be one of the major focuses that we really hadn't incorporated in the regional transportation plan before. And everyone knows anecdotally that the roads were, more or less vacant in the weeks and months following whatever it was, March or April of 2020. I don't even remember. It feels so long ago now. And obviously that has changed in so many ways. And we'll be looking at what traffic is done in some of the roadways in the region, and try to identify the trends that we can to determine what that may look like in the future. Things have changed quite a bit. We're not necessarily, we can't predict the future, obviously, but in terms of
We'll try.
On the roadways, Route 2 or downtown, what have you, the plan is going to look into what we can expect to see in 2050 and what we're seeing right now.
Yeah. And what we'd like to know too, from your perspective, do you think these telecommuting options will continue into the future? Will they grow? And how is it, if you're working for the town, how has it affected the town employees and town work? Is that something that's going to continue? So, next slide, Brian.
What needs to change or improve? This is the type of feedback that we hope to gain from some of the surveys. And we all, we work in the region. We're very familiar with all the communities in the region and all the sort of local issues. But this is the stuff that we need to plan for going forward. We have an opportunity when we update these regional transportation plans to try to plan for some of these challenges that we see currently and we may see in the future. So does anyone have any concerns that, problems that may need to change or a change of approach or anything like that?
I want to jump in and just say this question, probably the next question of the two that probably will get the most feedback from is, really it's telling us what you think needs to change or improve in your community, in the region, whether it be, like we said, congestion, safety, climate change. If those are the important issues that need to be addressed, let us know so that we can tailor our planning scenarios to reflect those overall needs.
And I think one of our takeaways typically is, some of the priorities that a citizen would have, or just an official from a town may have. A lot of times it goes back to just funding for local roads, and especially in our region, people see the conditions for the roads going down, and the money not stretching as far, and that's typically one of the most common issues that we come across. And it's good to identify that in the long range plan, because this is a federal document, and the federal government doesn't necessarily think of local funding issues for local roads as one of their main priorities. So it's important to sort of highlight that issue or any other local type of issue that there may be in these federal documents as well.
One thing I will also throw in here is that in our work with towns over the years, one issue has always been the cost of design for a project. The state has a method or a routine of once they approve a federally funded project and tell the community that, they also tell the community, well, you're responsible for design in most cases. And, you know, for $1 million project, you're talking 10 to 20% for design. So you're talking $100,000 to $200,000 just for design work. And then you're also responsible for right of way and so on. But for some communities, that's 90% of their Chapter 90 funds. And that leaves them nothing for local maintenance, snow removal, so on and so forth. And that's an issue that I think we've heard on a consistent basis. And, you know, we would also like to hear more from communities about that issue so that we can make it better known to the state. I mean, they've heard us before, but I think they need a little bit more pushing to get them to actually fund design in many of these cases. It's my understanding that there's no it's not that federal funds can be used for the design as well as the construction. So there's no regulation that prevents that. It's just, I think, a matter of opinion on Massachusetts' part to try and get the communities more bought into the project development and the project that they want to put forward. And I think at one time that might have been a good idea, but I think by now, with the costs escalating so quickly, that they need to take a look again at funding design for communities. And again, the next question, I think, Brian, ties into that. You know, in this one, we're looking for specific locations or issues that you have in your community, whether it be intersection X, Y, and Z, road, Route 12 is too congested for us, or so on, or we don't have enough trail locations or trail access or sidewalks. Those are things that we want to identify.
Does anyone have any examples of locations that you just think it's a real issue, or you know, in your community, does everyone know that one location is a safety hazard or what have you? And these, you know, we asked this in the survey question as well. And, so always feel free to fill that survey out and, you know, get back to us with feedback of any kind, whether it be one particular issue or one location or, you know, just a general trend that you may see.
And again, as we're saying, you know, I know it's hard to come into this and say, oh yeah, we have this street, we have that street, and so on. But think about it and feel free to get information to us, whether it's directly through an email or through the surveys or even through this meeting or a subsequent meeting, because those are the issues that need to be highlighted. If you give us a list of locations that you say are dangerous, and they might not have high accident numbers, so they don't appear on our analysis, because we do yearly a review of crash data that Mass DOT submits to us. But we all know of locations in a community where it's tricky, it's dangerous, but where all the people in the community know about it, so they take their time and they take their precautions going through it. And then you get accidents from those who are unfamiliar with it. But the actual number of accidents may not raise to the point where it appears on the state's radar screen. But they are part of the overall flow and the network of the community. So we want to identify those because we will talk about safety issues and funding of safety projects. And we don't have to specifically say intersection improvements at intersection X, Y, and Z, but we can have that intersection just there as needing to be further examined and some safety improvements need to be implemented there. So we can get specific at identified intersections, or we can have generalized and say that we want to upgrade and improve a number of intersections through pavement marking, signage, and so on and so forth. So keep that in mind when you are thinking about this and you're filling information out or you're sending stuff to us.
Yeah, it's important to identify this type of stuff in this plan. Like Brad said previously, it's important to have these things mentioned in the plan to get it ready for funding and improvement in the future. So, and another, sort of a long range look that we look at in this plan is what does successful regional transportation network look like in 2050, which is very difficult to sit here and say, like we're going to need this has to change, especially in light of everything that's happened in the last few years and the effect it's had on travel and transportation. But this is really what the plan's purpose is, to make sure we're ready for this. This is a question we also ask in the survey, and we'll be trying to get some feedback from our member groups and whatnot. So we encourage, if there's things that people feel like is important to plan for, please let us know.
And as a community, what would you like to see in the next 20, 30 years? Does the community envision a more accessible transportation network encompassing access to your trails, to your points of interest, to sidewalks, to municipal offices, not just the road conditions, but also, those other conditions of extending sidewalks to reach the school so that the kids can walk to school, extending the sidewalks to senior centers or other points of interest so that you can encourage more walking or more biking. Is there a need to be, do you have access to trails that you want to get people to more easily? So envision the entire network from the road to sidewalks to trails to points of interest to, what would you really like to see happen in the transportation network in your community? And that may guide you into saying, well, actually sidewalks are the most important thing in our community, not just congestion. It's, getting the sidewalk access improved. So those kind of things could drive what you think are most important for your community and how you think the funding should be spent in the future.
2050 seems like such a futuristic type of year, but in reality, I mean, some of these larger projects that are going on right now have been in planning stages for the last 20 or 30 years. And, especially nowadays, things just don't happen overnight. So identifying it in the RTP and having that type of foresight is important. So this slide here is basically our draft development schedule. It's a tentative schedule we've been following for this plan. And what we've been working on the last few months are, we have a vision statement and goals and objectives to go along with this plan. And we've been running that by our Joint Transportation Committee and our MPO groups. And we've had various discussions. Right now, we're really actually, this is our first public outreach session that we've had. We have 4 more to go in each of the subregions, and also we're doing a transit specific one the week after Thanksgiving. So we hope to incorporate all the feedback that we get from these sessions as well as the surveys into the actual plan and sort of analyze the feedback that get back from everybody. A lot of the analysis and stuff is upcoming in the next few months, and sometime next spring we'll be have some RTP heavy meetings with the MPO and the Joint Transportation Committee, and we're looking to get an endorsed document sometime in June or July of next year. As Brad mentioned, it's a federally required document by Federal Highway Administration. So, public outreach is one portion of this, but it's got to move through all the official local channels as well in the MPO. Here's our website. We have our agency website is mrpc.org, and typically we have, and we're doing this go around as well, we'll have a specific website to the RTP. Right now we have our previous RTP up right now. We encourage everybody to go look through that website. There's just so much information. The document itself is, well over 100 pages, but it's not really boring reading. There's a lot of stats in there and figures and maps, a lot of interesting transportation type of stuff, both in community-wide and region-wide. So we encourage everybody to sort of thumb through that as they see fit. We'll have our new website up very shortly as well.
I will say too that if you look at the old RTP or the current RTP, not the old RTP, you can find out some things on the scenarios that we developed for the last RTP and how they played into the funding equations we developed and the funding recommendations that were put together. They'll show you that where safety came in among people who were involved in the last RTP versus congestion and climate change and those things, and how we tried to tailor the funding recommendations to those strategies. We will do an analysis of those strategies to see how over the last 4 or 5 years we have come to meeting those goals, and that'll help guide us too in the future of looking at following projects. It hasn't in the past, because it usually comes down to just the total amount of funds we have available, but it may come down in the future to a point where we've got a couple of projects that are about the same cost, and the question is, one's a safety, one's a trail project, which is more important to the region. Feedback from this document, developing this document, may say that most of the region feels that trail connections and other modes of transportation are more important than a safety project at this time. So there may be, that may help sway which project gets advanced first. So those are things to consider when we are developing those strategies and those scenarios. What's important to your community, what's important to you, what's important to the future of the Montezuma region. So we just want to have you think along those lines. And as we said before too, you're not limited to just the survey and getting issues to us. You can do it a number of ways: phone calls, emails, again, the surveys itself, and just attending some of the workshops and some of the meetings we have to express your opinions as we go forward. And like Brian said, we'll have that new website up shortly, and we'll be posting all this information on there. As draft documents or chapters of the RTP are developed, we'll post them up there for review and for feedback. So we want to encourage you to take a look, comment on what you see, and pass this information on to other people for their review and their comment too, because we don't want to plan in a bubble. We want to get everybody involved and let us know. And if you know of groups or agencies that should be involved or may have opinions, especially on the lines of groups that represent special populations, Spanish American Center we know of, and some other agencies, disabled, elderly, so forth. If you know of agencies that represent them, and we especially want to hear from those agencies and those people because they're part of this transportation network, and we want them to be help us develop strategies as we move forward. So here are our contact information. Feel free to share with anyone, and let us know what you think. And fill out the surveys, drop us a line, and just keep us in the back of your mind so you'll come back and take a look at what's being developed and what's going on. We'll send out notices when we can, and we just encourage you to give us your feedback. So with that, if there are any outstanding questions or any issues anyone would like to talk about, now's the chance, and let us, and then we'll go from there. Yes.
I just really wanted to say thank you. This is my first foray into this program, and I work in development services, which oversees planning and zoning in Templeton. And I will, although I got the information out to our planning board, I will spread it a little bit further and get some surveys for you. And
Okay.
thank you very much for what you all do.
Well, thank you for attending and coming and letting us know. I'll also say too, as I mentioned earlier, we have the Montezut Joint Transportation Committee. That's an advisory group. They are going to be involved in this on a monthly basis at their meetings. We'll be presenting information to them. That's also a forum for making comments. And our next meeting is going to be January. Oh, I have to check. It's the second. We meet on the second Wednesday of the month at 2:30. So in January will be our next meeting. We're taking December off, but that's also a good opportunity to make comments and to get up to date as to what's going on. So keep an eye out for those meeting notices.
Thank you. Will do.
Okay. That's it. Thank you very much for attending. And again, pass the word on to anyone else. And like I said, if you have something comes up you want to discuss, feel free to attend one of the other workshops. And we'll be more than happy to talk to you at that point too. Thank you.